Shabbat Shalom. The French Nobel laureate Albert Camus is apparently quoted as saying that the greatness of man lies in his decision to be stronger than his condition. We're going through difficult conditions at the moment, and we pray that we have the ability to be strong through all of the difficulties. But I'd like to spend a few moments thinking about what greatness means in Judaism. Because this Shabbat is referred to as Shabbat HaGadol, literally the Great Shabbat. And the question is why? So there are a number of reasons offered, one of which is the enormously great sermon that a rabbi traditionally gives at this time. Not necessarily great in its content, but great in its length, because a rabbi would spend many hours going through all of the intricate details of Passover, because of course Shabbat HaGadol is the Shabbat that precedes Pesach and everyone needs to get ready. So I hope everyone's sitting comfortably, but I'd like to share an alternative reason, one that will be slightly shorter. Shabbat HaGadol, of course, as I said, is the Shabbat that precedes Pesach. And it gets its name from the very, very first Pesach, the Shabbat that was just a few days before the Jews left Egypt. Because that Shabbat changed the very nature of how we celebrate Shabbat. Sometimes we refer to Shabbat as Zecher L'Maaseh Bereshit. It is a commemoration, a reminder of the creation. And that makes a lot of sense to us, because God created the world in 6 days, and God rested on the seventh day, and we rest on the seventh day after having worked for 6 days, just as God did. So that's a great reminder of creation, and we see a very simple link between Maaseh Bereshit and Shabbat. But then we also refer to Shabbat as Zecher L'Yetziat Mitzrayim, reminder of the Exodus from Egypt. And the question is what Shabbat has to do with the Exodus from Egypt. And it all comes back to Shabbat HaGadol, the Great Shabbat, when Shabbat seemingly changed the world. God created the world, and perhaps we can see when we look around this world that there is a creator, that there seems to be intelligent design, that human beings perhaps didn't just pop out of nowhere, but there seems to have been some force that actually created all of the wonderful things that we see around us, the incredible physics and biology and chemistry and the intricate detail that goes into this world. But what's harder to see is the hand of God in our everyday lives, in what continues to happen on a regular basis. And what Shabbat HaGadol teaches us is that there was not just a Yotzer Bereshit, a creator who created the world, but that there was a creator who was still interested in what goes on in the world. A creator who wanted to have a people and who cared about the fact that they were enslaved, who wanted to take them out, who wanted to give them commandments, who cared about whether they performed those commandments, who wanted to ensure that there would be goodness in this world, that the world would continue to run in a positive and in an enlightening way, in a way that's an inspiration to all of the people that are within this world. And that in itself is Gedulah, is greatness. We say in Aleinu, the prayer that we say at the very end of each of our prayers at Shachrit, Mincha and Marev, we say Aleinu at the end. And within Aleinu we say Latet Gedulah Leyotzer Bereshit. That one of the things that we do is we attribute greatness to the creator of the world. And it's this very same idea. God simply didn't create the world and walk away, but he is great in the sense that he cares about the little details, the things that a creator, that a God really shouldn't care about at all. I'd like to share a story about one of my heroes, a very, very great person, and someone who shows that greatness really is caring about the small things that perhaps we think that great people shouldn't care about. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein was a sage of the last generation, really a halachic decider for all of America throughout the 20th century. And after his passing came Friday afternoon, and there was a phone call to his house. And somebody else who was there, a relative, picked up the phone. It was an older lady who lived nearby, and she said she was phoning to ask the rabbi what time Shabbat came in. And the fellow said, "But just check the newspaper. I'm sure you can find out what time Shabbat comes in." And she said, "But I didn't know that." She said, "Every week I phone the rabbi, and the rabbi spends time talking to me. And the rabbi tells me what time Shabbat comes in. And he takes the time to ask how I am. I had no idea that I could just find out the time of Shabbat in the newspaper. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein had never told this lady that she could find out the time for Shabbat from the newspaper because he didn't feel it was beneath him to take this call. He didn't feel it was too much trouble for him to care about a little old lady who lived nearby. Greatness in Judaism is about caring about the little things as well. The people who perhaps at other times we think are not so significant to our life, we're too busy for them, we have too many other things to deal with. And at a time like this, we're reminded that greatness is about caring for every single person and every single detail in this world. May this Shabbat HaGadol be one that gives us great strength. May it inspire us to think about those who we may have otherwise forgotten. And through all the difficulties that we face, may it be a Shabbat that reminds us of the continued greatness of the Almighty and His care and concern for every single person in this world. I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom.